When the blizzard knocked out the power grid, the director swore my father was safe. He had no idea I was already tracking his watch. The storm of the decade was burying upstate New York under 3 feet of snow. Whispering Pines was supposed to be the best memory care facility in the state. $10,000 a month for luxury care for patients like my dad, who had early onset Alzheimer's. I called the front desk. Richard, the director, picked up with that slick, buttery voice. "Don't worry," he said. "Generators kicked in immediately. All 32 residents are playing bingo in the grand parlor. He's totally fine." But the tracker app on my phone told a different story. The blue dot wasn't in the parlor. It was in the abandoned East Wing, a section supposedly closed for renovations. I didn't wait for confirmation. I borrowed a snowmobile and rode 5 miles through whiteout conditions straight to their front door. When I burst into the lobby, Richard dropped his coffee mug. He tried to block me, mumbling about safety protocols, but I shoved past him and followed the signal down a dark, freezing corridor until I hit a heavy fire door, chained shut, from the outside. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and smashed the handle until it broke. Inside, it was barely 40 degrees. My father sat in a wheelchair, shaking, wrapped in a blanket thin as paper. He wasn't alone. 3 other patients, the ones Richard called the Wanderers, were huddled in the dark, terrified. They hadn't just been forgotten. They'd been deliberately locked away so the skeleton crew could stay warm and comfortable up front. My dad went to the ER with severe hypothermia. The doctors told me if I'd been an hour later, his heart would have stopped. The next morning, I walked into the police station. The desk sergeant was sympathetic but shook his head. "Without security footage, it's he said, she said," he told me. "Richard's calling it a momentary relocation, a triage call. Being disorganized isn't a crime, son. Disorganized. That was the word he used." I didn't argue. I just walked out. If the badge wouldn't help me, I'd take Whispering Pines down myself. I remembered a night nurse, Sarah, who'd quit 2 months earlier without explanation. I found her on LinkedIn, tracked down where she worked now, and waited in the parking lot until her shift ended. When I showed her the picture of my father in that freezing room, she broke down. "It wasn't the first time," she whispered. She gave me everything. Passcodes to the internal servers, names of 3 other nurses who'd walked out, and the real prize, a hidden, encrypted server where Richard kept 2 sets of books. They were billing Medicaid for round-the-clock specialized care while locking the difficult patients in the East Wing for up to 12 hours at a stretch. For the next 4 weeks, I built a case. I found the families of the other 3 victims locked in that room. We formed a quiet, furious alliance, and agreed not to say a word to Richard. We were waiting for his biggest night of the year, the annual Whispering Pines Charity Gala. Black tie, packed with investors and local politicians. Right as Richard stepped on stage to accept a humanitarian award, we made our move. We skipped the small talk with police entirely. Copies of the server logs, the falsified billing records, and Sarah's sworn affidavit went straight to the FBI's Healthcare Fraud Division, the State Health Department, and the lead investigative reporter at Channel 4. By the time Richard finished his acceptance speech, federal agents and windbreakers were already blocking the ballroom exits. The look on his face when they cuffed him in front of 200 donors is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. The state shut the facility down permanently. Richard is now looking at 25 years in federal prison. My dad lives at home now, with a private nurse paid for by the settlement that followed. Some days he doesn't remember my name, but he never has to feel that cold again.